Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. I'm Eric Kane alongside Austin Price and Grant Ramey. We've got a lot of questions in here, so we won't waste any time. We'll jump down into it. Smithnjones, why are university presidents and athletic directors afraid of collective bargaining? Is it workman's comp? Is it a varied of sports? What is it?
Well, obviously, Danny White's not afraid of it. He's the one advocating for it. So is Donde Plowman. I'm not sure they're scared. I just think it is such a stark contrast to what the model used to be. I think they struggle with it, right? Like, even in this current form, I think there are people that are afraid to talk about kids getting paid. Guys, they've been getting paid under the table for years, even over the table. Heck, man, we're going on year 4 or 5. I guess 2022 maybe was the first year of full-fledged NIL. And so, what is that? Year 4 of NIL. I mean, it's not taboo anymore. But I think for some, the change of philosophy, the change of model has been a struggle.
What about power? Maybe giving up a little bit of power.
Certainly can do that too.
The players are more empowered now to move around, do what they want, and go look for the best deal or the best fit or whatever. But if they're organized and if they have a rep and they do stuff collectively, then I think that gives them that much more power as a group to kind of steer the ship a little bit and control some stuff moving forward in an era where so much is changing so rapidly.
Coming up on the 4-year anniversary, it was July 1st, 2021. So coming up 4 years, which is kind of hard to believe. What is the current highest payout for NIL that you know of?
I mean, obviously Nico's would be up there just over the longevity of the deal. But individual years, there have been guys that make $3 or $4 million the last couple of years.
No, talking about the I took that as the buyout. You know how they're trying to say that you can have a buyout with NIL now, and if you want to leave and all that. He says payout, but I took it as a buyout.
I kind of took it the way AP did, just like the most money that a player has.
The problem is there's no transparency with any of this. So
right.
A kid can say I'm making $500,000, he could be making $100,000, and the school knows what he's making, the kid knows what he's making, but the agent telling everybody else, the kid telling his teammates and everything. That's the problem. Is a lot of these kids are too proud to just say, hey, look, I got $125,000. They get in there I got $350,000. They get in their room, they get in the position room, I made $350,000, and then the kid that's actually starting over him is like, wait a minute, what? I want to get $275,000. What is happening? Then there's dissension. That happens all the time. Because kids just can't go, hey, look, I got $150,000. I got $125,000. I got $250,000. Instead, they inflate their numbers.
Basketball, I think it's native mint. I don't know what the number is.
Here in Tennessee, it certainly is, yes.
Yes, for sure. Probably by a considerable margin. I don't think Tennessee's cheap by any means, but that's the one guy where it was I think Rick was basically in the mindset of, we're going to go get this kid and we're going to give him what he wants because that's how badly I want him.
I'll tell you, the best NIL deal that Tennessee's ever give out was Dalton Connect.
Yep.
Return on investment. Dalton Connect made a little over $100,000 for his year at UT.
That is insane.
But that is also how much it's morphed. That's also how much it's morphed in 2 years. It's
true.
morphed in 2 years to where, Chaz Lanier made dramatically more than Dalton Connect did, both coming from Northern Colorado and North Florida. It's not like one of them came from Temple or some even mid-level school. It morphed a lot from year 1 to year 2. Now it's morphed even more from year 2 to year 3 in terms of going from the Connect to Chaz right into Lanier.
To Nate. From Chaz to Nate. Right.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, Lanier into, I was going to say Gillespie. I was going more the transfer route. The high school route, there's always been those kind of kids that got Cooper Flag, those type of players that got enough money coming out of high school. But even the transfer market, what Dalton to Lanier to Gillespie, 3 totally different numbers over the last 3 years because of how it has morphed.
Go to Mumford VOLS 2410. Kane, were you a little surprised with Sharman hitting the portal from Tennessee's point of view? It seems like we don't have many lefty options currently, particularly in some of those lefty high school commits go high enough in the draft. Are we currently in on any lefty transfers that you are aware of? Tennessee to answer that last part, I mean, Tennessee's evaluating left-handed pitching options every single day. I mean, Tennessee's shown some interest in a couple of lefties. I wouldn't say that it had gone far, but we're in it for a couple, and then, they went ahead and transferred or they committed somewhere else. I mean, that happens all the time. At the time of this recording, I don't have anybody that's supposed to be visiting this weekend that's a left-handed pitcher, so that could certainly evolve as the weekend goes along. But no, they're evaluating left-handed options on the daily in the transfer portal. And remember, the Blaine Brown kid from Rice, two-way, didn't throw an awful lot. I recognize that, but he is a left-handed arm. And say Tennessee were to get him, sure, the stats don't look good with him on the mound this year. Guess what? He's going to pitch. Why? Because you have 34 men on the roster, and you need more pitchers, specifically left-handers. So is that a Tuesday inning or two? Is that bullpen? I don't know. But like a guy like that, 1,000% is going to pitch here at Tennessee. Just kind of the era we're in right now. So we'll see what happens. Right now, though, at the time of this recording, I don't have anybody that's coming to visit that's a left-handed pitcher.
What if they went from Sharman to Bounty?
Sharman to who?
Bounty. A kid named Bounty.
No.
Grant got it. Grant got it.
I didn't hear you. That's funny.
Brawny, is that another one?
Is it Braun? Is it Braun?
I don't know.
Maybe Sharman.
I just get
the
Costco brand. Kirkland.
I would have kept Sharman. I think that there's some stuff there. I think there's some versatility there. He only pitched in like 3 SEC games, and one of those he got torched. I recognize that. Kind of took over that midweek starter role, but I think there's a lot left in the tank for him, so I would have held on to him, but certainly he probably wanted to go look for other opportunities. Tennessee's, at the time of this recording, 22 transfer portal departures of the guys who were on the roster last year. That's not counting J.J. Garcia. That's not counting Alex Perry. 17 of those are pitchers. I understand what it looks like from the outside, but I mean, you're going from a roster where you've oversigned your entire tenure here for Tony Vitello's staff of 52, 53 guys. You got to get down to 34. There was going to be a purge, and there was going to be roster casualties for sure.
Fun process. It's a fun process to go through.
And it's unfortunate because there's a lot of talent there. Also, he says, do you think Tony called Jay Johnson and congratulated him on the World Series victory? Obviously joking. I understand they're not the best of friends. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that did not happen. Tony calling Jay Johnson. Pump the Pumpkin, 86. What transfer portal player will have the biggest impact this year? Star Thomas, Amari Jefferson, or Colton Hood?
Colton Hood, out of the fact that Jamal McCoy is coming off the ACL, and I don't think they're just rush him back. So I think Colton Hood, then I would go Star Thomas, and then Amari Jefferson.
My mind went to Star just because of the history of running backs in this staff and how they've traditionally spread it around when they don't have that bell cow guy.
My only question is, I mean, how many backs is Darrell Sims going to play this year? Last year, I mean, it was different because you had Dylan Sampson, and of course he was your bell cow, but you only had a 2-man rotation. 3 guys played, but it was only a 2-man rotation. Obviously Jerry Mack played 3 guys. What's that rotation going to look like this year? Is it going to go back to 3 guys? I don't know. I would say Colton Hood simply because of the Jamal McCoy injury to begin the season, but also even when Jamal McCoy's 100% back playing every snap, I think that Colton Hood allows the secondary to be versatile. They can move some guys around and go, free up somebody to play, back up Boo Carter at star, whatever that is. So
that's right.
I would say Colton Hood and then Star Thomas and Amari Jefferson. Aikens, VFL 24. I know there's some optimism about Wyatt. Is there any chance he eventually plays in the secondary at Tennessee? I feel like we've recruited linebacker and edge much better than the secondary.
I guess there's always a possibility. And I think that's the big question is, again, there is optimism there, but at the same time, he goes to the 5-star challenge up there with Rivals, which is now on 3-2, in Indianapolis, and he works out at receiver and in the secondary. So, I mean, again, I think that tells you he probably doesn't want to play Leo. So, which goes back to, even if there's positive momentum there, does a good performance at one of those camps throw a wrench in that, positive momentum to the point where he's like, I just want to play safety. I just want to play whatever that's not Leo. And I think that, that's certainly a possibility leading into his July 6th decision.
Waffle wants to know if y'all could make the decision for the school between Nike and Adidas with the numbers y'all are hearing and previous expertise in recruiting, who would you pick?
Well, I think it depends on how much money can be put toward NIL. If you're able to pass the clearinghouse and all this, and to the point where Adidas can take part of the deal and put it towards NIL, towards for players, then I think I would do the Adidas deal. It's a lot of money. Now Nike, to my knowledge, has not given Tennessee the rebuttal yet. I think that deep down Tennessee would stay with Nike if Nike could get close. I think Nike's initial offer was not very good, and then Tennessee went the Adidas route because it made sense once Nike kind of gave an insulting offer, and then things started to spiral. I think Nike has since come back with and been a lot more friendly, so to speak, through all this. So the question is how much do they, counter with? Like if it gets close, I don't think they have to get to the Adidas number, but if it gets close, I think the admin would prefer to stay with Nike as long as it gets close. If it's a gross amount of money, I think they're headed for Adidas.
If it's a personal question, I'm the wrong person to ask, because I'm a sucker for a Nike swoosh. I'm an even bigger sucker for the Jordan brand. So if the numbers were even in the neighborhood, I would personally stick with Nike. But if it's outlandish money, then money talks.
Yeah, I mean, shouldn't this be an easy decision? Like, I understand the appeal of Nike and everything, but like in this era we're in, if it's 1000% not in the same neighborhood, okay, it's night and day. It's an easy decision for me if I'm a decision maker, right? Because we need money. You need money to operate right now. It costs a lot of money to do college athletics. So, I mean, if it's in the same neighborhood, that's one thing. But like if it's not, like for me, it's just an easy decision. I understand Nike and all that, but
if Adidas is offering to make you a flagship program, then you can, I don't know, have some say in what Adidas does with your apparel, and I don't know, maybe more so than you had with Nike in the past. I don't know. I don't know how all the inside workings of it in terms of the design and all that stuff.
Survey 5449, is Emanuel Okoye still on the team? And if so, how is his development coming along?
Oh, let's complete the survey. Yes, he is. He is playing tight end, and he's playing. Sorry, not playing tight end. He's playing Leo,
he started out by going to be the best tight end to ever come here.
Correct. I think Coach Chop is really pushing him to see what he can get out of him. And talking to some people on the defensive side of the ball about him just in the last couple of weeks, I think that's the goal, is to get the most they can out of Emanuel Okoye, to get him on the field and go from there. But I mean, he is back healthy. He is a big athletic specimen. And if you can just develop it and get something out of him, that's a real bonus to go along with Josephs and Herring and Jordan Ross.
DCE 1470, Landon Mack appears to be the highest rated target left in the portal for Tony V, with the VOLS and LSU as likely landing spots. Handicap our odds on landing him. What is he being offered by each school, and how do you see this playing out? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know how much money he's being offered by Tennessee or LSU, but I would assume that it's very competitive. It's not nothing. But even more than that, I mean, what is he being offered? I mean, I know this is going to be a simplistic answer, but I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day. I mean, anybody that's coming down, trying to choose between Tennessee and LSU right now, I mean, from the player's perspective, how in the world could you choose wrong, right? You got, LSU 2 of the last 3 natties. Tennessee's won a natty. Tennessee's the winningest program since COVID. Look at all the talent turned out for the MLB draft by both programs. Look at the talent and the quick talent from the draft to the pros, with the big leagues right now from Tennessee's side. I mean, like, there's so much to be offered by both programs. There's a different style. Do you think you could be coached up and be ready to roll by Jay Johnson and his staff, or by Tony Vitale and his staff? I mean, I think that's the biggest thing there. But nonetheless, we'll see what happens. LSU's very much in this one. Obviously, that their attention was on Omaha, even though they were still looking at the transfer portal. Now that they're back and all that, we'll see if Landon Mack has a visit lined up at some point this week or this weekend at LSU. I think it's real either way, but we'll see if he takes a visit and just see what happens. He was here on Tennessee's campus a couple weeks ago. A couple of ACC schools are involved in that one. I think Arkansas was involved in that one at one point in time. We knew this one was going to be a big boy fight, so we'll see what happens. But Tennessee still in it, still communicating with them, and we'll see if this one goes about another week or, maybe 10 days or so. Let's go to Neylandgreene. Is Rocky Top the most hated fight song in the nation? I love hearing it played 100 times during the game.
Rocky Top is it's like one of those like really popular fast food places, like an In-N-Out Burger, Whataburger, Powell's. Like if you're all in on it, you're all in on it. You can't get enough of it, right? But if you don't really understand it and you don't like it, then you just don't want anything to do with it. And so that's where Rocky Top's at. I mean, like if you're a Tennessee fan, you love it. You love to sing along to it. You can't hear it enough. And if you're not, it's one time too many when they play it for the first time.
That's any fight song though, Grant, right? Or not just fight song, but any like thing that a fan base does. I'm not trying to compare here, but I think the Woo Pig Sooie thing's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. But when I'm sitting there trying to write, the whole freaking stadium's doing it, I'm like, oh wow. It's kind of
sitting in the middle. It's
kind of cool.
Sitting in the middle of Bud Walton Arena watching 20,000 people do that. Probably about 10 years ago now was like a cult-like experience. Like the stuff at A&M, the yell leaders. People think it's the dumbest thing imaginable, but I guess A&M people, appreciate it, like it, whatever.
I want to know, like, do A&M
that
fans,
is the case where.
I was going to say, like, I want to know, do A&M fans like that? I mean, I guess they do because they still do.
Right.
But, like, how does anybody like the yell leaders? Just weird.
I do think it is a thing where it's if your rival does it, you hate it. If your school does it, you love it.
It's like when they sing "Yeah, Alabama," we just beat the hell out of you. Like that's the worst, right? Like you're walking, especially if the game's close. like 2005, Tennessee lost that game. After Corey Anderson fumbled through the end zone, and like that was they held that somebody held that that bed sheet up with a message to Philip. I mean, again, that's what makes college sports great is the rivalry and the fandom. But on the other side of it, man, and nobody want to hear that.
Most mysterious Vol football team expectation wise since blank year. He said, for me personally, it would be 2009 with Kiffin.
I think that's a little too far back because there's been so many regime changes since then and so many different styles and so many different coordinators and trying to figure out what you're going to get from one year to the next with, X team. And it feels like Heupel has been pretty consistent since he got here. Like he didn't have much in 21. He found ways to win games. 22 is obviously crazy expectations-wise in terms of what they did versus what maybe people thought of them going into that season. 23, you're replacing Hendon Hooker, and you don't know what to expect. They found ways to win games that year. They've won games at a more consistent clip and a consistent level. Feels like there's been more consistency in general with the program than we've seen in quite a while. So that obviously could change in 25, and there are dramatic. It could be really bad. It could be really good, but it feels like they've been at least somewhat consistent when others haven't.
I don't mind the 2009 comparison. It's a different because like you're not talking about a coaching change. You're talking about this weird quarterback shift, right? From a quarterback's perspective, I'm gonna go 2004 when you had Brent Schaefer and Eric Ainge, and you didn't know going into fall camp those guys were going to beat out Leak and run with it and have the year they had. And obviously Tennessee fans would sign up for a trip to Atlanta right now because that's basically what that team did. But there's so much unknown. Again, I can't remember last time I was excited to go to fall camp. I normally hate fall camp. It's like 30 days watching the same two periods and stretch.
Watching defensive ends run around that thing and strip the football. Not fired up for that.
Then that's a circuit drill.
I mean, I think you could compare it to 21 too, because we went into that fall camp not knowing what to expect at quarterback. Am I wrong there? That's been a long time ago.
I think the biggest difference, though, even with the 09 example with Kiffin come in, I mean, that was a regime change. Heupel was a regime change in 21, but like you just had questions on, I guess more so from Heupel, but like how fast is this offense really going to be? Is it going to work in the SEC? I mean, what's it going to look like? Those were more questions.
And so we did not know how quick. I mean, maybe y'all did. I had no idea of the tempo thing until like that first series for Joe, that first game. I was like, well, what is this?
Oh, it was the orange and white game. I remember I was sitting there.
All about the tempo, but you just don't realize how fast it is until they really get going. And they weren't really able to do that, last year. I'm interested. Can they do that this year? Do they get back to the tempo? Is that more of a thing again?
Yeah. You don't realize how fast it is until you're looking down and you miss a play and you're like, oh crap, what just happened?
Yeah, because you're trying to watch the replay of this nice sideline catch up here, and all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, they just scored a touchdown down here, but I'm looking up here at the screen. That's like 3 plays from now.
I was going to say you're like 3 plays behind. Yeah. All right. Sam Smith 2233. Kane, what are your thoughts? Do they get the 2 big lefties to campus? That of course is Cruz Schoolcraft and Cameron Appenzeller. Again, I mean, we'll see. Like a couple weeks ago, it was little to no chance. At least that was the feeling for Tennessee. Now it's growing more and more optimism that at least one of those guys can get there. Tennessee's had some luck on getting some top flight guys to campus the last couple of years. Not like a ton, but like they have had some luck. So you would hope that one of these 2 guys could make it to campus. And I mean, immediately, what do you need right now? You need pitching. You need 2-way. You need left-handed pitching. I mean, that's Schoolcraft to a T, right? And he's like number 16 overall prospect, but he's being mocked in the second round right now. So we'll see what happens. There's some optimism there. I mean, I think it would be wishful thinking if both got here, but if you can just get one, man, that is a massive, massive win for Tennessee, considering neither one of these guys were going to be, here a month ago. What Juco guys do you think can make an impact this year? Yeah, I mean, I think the conversation starts with Matt Barr. You got to survive the draft there first. He's currently prospect number 158 over at MLB Pipeline. If you look at what money is assigned to that slot in the draft, that's $434,400. So, I mean, that's a nice chunk of change, right? So, I mean, of course, I'm not saying he'll get drafted there, but that's kind of what's assigned to his spot right now. So, what if he gets drafted way higher than that? What if he gets drafted way lower than that? What if you come to Tennessee and you pitch 1 year and you propel yourself into the first round? I mean, what if you just get into one of those competitive balance rounds? I mean, you're still talking, you're going from $400,000 to about $2.2 million. So, I mean, that's the question that these guys have to answer, right? Like, especially guys like Matt Barr. If he makes it to campus, that is nice. That is big. I think that would be huge. And, of course, Tyler Myatt as well. Interesting thing about Tyler Myatt is it's what position is he going to play? He's playing second base in summer ball right now in Kingsport. He's going to go up to the Cape here soon. He can play a little outfield. He was a hitter, a DH at Walter State, and a really good one. But certainly anybody that hits for the Triple Crown at any level, very intriguing. So those 2 guys for sure. I mean, if you get Matt Barr here, that is one of the biggest wins you can possibly have. And, of course, I'm intrigued to see what Tyler Myatt looks like as well. David Keith, what do you see as a long-term position for Levi Clark? Grant or Austin, either one? I think Levi Clark should learn how to catch because he can make a lot of money.
Well, it would certainly make the pitch or that position a more hitter-friendly position, if that was okay.
I'm thinking of the Ron Washington scene in Moneyball when they're talking about teaching him first base, and he goes, "Tell him, Ron, it's not that hard. It's extremely hard.
It's extremely hard."
Or it's not that difficult. It's extremely difficult. Can he catch? I don't know. You tell me.
Levi Clark, I mean, he's playing some outfield in the Cape right now. He's caught a game. I don't think he's played first base yet. I check those Pro Baseball Reference pages almost daily. I think at Tennessee, it just depends on, does Henry Ford get to campus? Okay, say he did. Is he playing first base? Okay, well, that puts Levi Clark in the outfield, right? Say Henry Ford gets here and he's in the outfield. Maybe that puts Levi Clark at first base. I think long-term for Levi Clark, he's a catcher. But at Tennessee, I just think that you leave those options open. He started a lot of games, or not a lot, but he started a few games in the outfield, so I could see that. But I think first base is what he's been practicing the most. What is Tony V looking for as of today in the portal? Infield, an infielder, and a left-handed pitcher. Okay, obviously Landon Mack is a right-handed pitcher. I mean, you're in it for him, and you're going to try to bring him to campus. But Tennessee needs a left-handed pitcher. Tennessee needs an infielder. That Dylan Grego guy, Tennessee was in on him from Ball State. He commits to Arkansas. Tennessee, LSU, go figure, still battling for Jaron Avankula. Tennessee's still in that one. There'll be some other names that pop up, but infielder and left-handed pitching. How much of the portal this is a good topic too, because AP's talked about in football. How much of the portal recruiting is taking the best available and figuring it out versus recruiting for a specific position? There's a balance there, right, AP? I mean, especially for Tony. Tony can walk in the room, and not trying to discredit Josh Heupel or anything, but Tony can walk in the room and be in it with anybody, right? I mean, because he's Tony Vitello. But you obviously have to have a strategy. You have to go and attack your needs. But like, if you're in it for a guy that is considered one of the best players in the portal, you're going to go after him. But I think there's got to be a hefty balance there for sure.
Well, Tony is going to take best available. Josh Heupel is going to take best available at the positions he needs, right? Now, he's not going to just take a center if he has a center, because at the end of the day, the kid you're bringing in is going to cost a fortune, because that's how this thing is broken up with the portal. And so you're going to go and, hey, I need a corner with Jeremiah McCoy's injury. Oh, Colton Hood came available. Wow, let's go get him. But if you're set at, linebacker, you're not going to go just take a linebacker just to take one because the kid costs money, and if you're not going to play the player, then there's no point to bring him in and pay a bunch of money. That's just burning cash, although everybody burns cash at some point. And then two, you don't want to stunt the growth in the room of the younger players you like. I love the fact that Tennessee is forcing some of these young kids to the field. I think that's the way to go. I mean, I think you cherry pick the portal with spots you need, and then you continue to recruit high school kids. I like their model. I get the fans know. The fans like the flashy objects of the portal and stuff and all that. And I certainly think you can go and get good players out of the portal and they can help you. But to think you're constructing a majority of your roster out of the portal, to me, is just taking someone else's problems and giving them to yourself and doing those type of things. At least in football. I mean, I think basketball, maybe it's a little bit different, but does that morph over time?
Basketball is very analytical, and they look at numbers that they've had success with, like what numbers are in common between Dalton and Chaz that made them fit here and work here. Like, there is obviously a need at a certain position, and you got to go address that position. But at the same time, they're not going to take somebody just to take somebody. It makes them sound cheap when you say they're looking for value, but they're looking for their best value, their best bang for their buck, and they do that through a lot of numbers, extreme kind of minutia with the analytics and the numbers, and kind of creating a certain formula where this guy has these numbers, and these numbers have worked at this position in the past with guys that we've went to and got out of the portal. And these guys that didn't work out of the portal, they had these numbers, and maybe these are the reasons why it didn't work. It's a very analytical numbers approach to what might work and what might not work, or what hasn't worked.
All right. One other question here from David. Best walk-on on the football squad since 1990. I think we had this question or one similar a couple of weeks ago, AP, but who were some of the better walk-ons since 1990?
I mean, obviously, in recent years, you've got Will Brooks. You have Deshaun Bishop. Those make a lot of sense. You brought up the Sullins twins. Those make a lot of sense. You go all the way back to like 1990, and you would go with a guy like J.J. McCleskey. Those are all players that played. Now, there were plenty of walk-ons that made the spring game their annual dominating fest, like David Yancey or Kirsten Biggers. But as far as on the field making a bunch of plays, the ones we talked about are ones that really, really stand out.
Derek Brodus, what year was that? 2011.
When they went and got him out of the hall,
got him off the couch or whatever his quote was after the game. That was, I don't know about impactful, but you just talk about crazy stories. That was
the kicker, right?
That was MTSU, and they had a kicker, and
that was got him off the frat couch.
Right, strained the kicker, starting kicker strained something pregame or something. They didn't have another place kicker,
and I'm sure we're missing. What about the Reveiz brothers? Oh, I'm sure we're missing somebody that some of the general scores go like, how'd you forget this? Well, it's easy to do.
Will Brooks is a pretty good candidate based on the impact he had.
Yes, and the plays he made a year ago.
Yeah, huge.
I mean, 4 interceptions, and he was Tennessee's best safety, and it wasn't even close. And there were fans that were freaking out about it, even while he was doing it during the season.
There were media members who looked at me during fall camp and said, "You don't really think Will Brooks will start, do you?"
Oh my gosh, I remember this.
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Who you're talking about? All right, Volken, since it's silly season, I'll ask the impossible question. Which Tennessee sport has the most success this coming season? Football, baseball, men's basketball, women's basketball, softball.
I think the easy bet here is basketball, men's basketball. Obviously they've got a bunch of new faces. They'll have to gel. They'll have to mesh. But the talent is certainly there to make another run. There's a lot of unknowns with football. Baseball, it's a whole retool, reload. Women's basketball is an interesting one for me just because, they had all those key freshmen. They didn't really lose anybody that mattered. I think their roster is dramatically better now than it was last season. So, it could very well be women's basketball long term. And I think that for Kim Caldwell and the Lady Vols, if they could somehow knock off, a Final Four run for the first time since, Candace Parker was in uniform. Think about that. That's how long it's been since the Lady Vols were in a Final Four.
I was in college. It wasn't that long ago.
It was.
Yeah, I'm a young man.
You're old.
IMissDenariousMoore, call your shots. Who will be the next retired jersey? What will be the next retired jersey number for any of the major sports?
Well, if Rick Barnes has it, and it'll be number 5. It's a guy Ziegler.
Again.
Yeah, and that's kind of different because 5's already in the rafters. Like, how does it?
It's going to be like one of those banners that have all the SEC championships. It's going to be a banner that has number 5, and it's going to say Chris Lofton under it, Zakai Ziegler.
My thing is, how do you do that without putting Grant Williams up there? 2-time SEC Player of the Year. Like, as much as I love Z,
right.
Like the awards that Williams won are, they're as good as it gets. So, I don't know. That's a great question. To be honest with you, I would put Christian Moore out there on the outfield wall pretty quick if I were Tony Vitello.
One's already out there.
No, but you're not retiring. It's just
I know.
The name.
Yeah, I know.
Dalton Connect.
What has been the most interesting recruitment you've covered, and why? Does not need to be the most recent cycle or even a commitment to Tennessee. What's been the most interesting recruitment you've covered?
Dude, I don't know. There's a lot of interesting ones over the years. David Oku, I did his commitment interview when he was it was, I forget the timeline, but I did it in the back edit bay at WVLT. Did the interview and everything, wrote it down on a piece of paper. And he was going to commit the next day. And then the next day came, he's like, hey, I'm going to wait. Okay. Had it written. 4 months later, it finally turned loose. 4 months. And he's always the example I use when I tell kids, let's do it ahead of time. I won't burn you. One time I had a kid. It sat there for 4 months.
We got Grant.
I think the last surprise probably was Josiah Jordan James, because he had gone on I think it was a Duke visit and then a Clemson visit, and he shut down his recruitment like the day he left Clemson, and he was a South Carolina kid, and Dad played at Michigan State, and everybody thought maybe Duke, maybe Clemson, maybe Michigan State. Nobody thought Tennessee, and that was the last time that I actually remember being surprised on decision day. Like, I had stuff prepared just in case he picked Tennessee, but I didn't know for certain what he was going to pick. I didn't really expect it to be Tennessee. That's the last time. It's kind of a surprise. And then obviously the Zakai story is very well told about his recruitment, how quick it was and all that stuff. So that was interesting as well.
No kids can hold it, Grant. Like in today's world, they all have agents, and all the agents talk.
Yeah.
So it all leaks out. Savion Hyder can throw his hands up and go, I'm not talking to a soul. Yeah, you're right. You haven't. Problem is, you got an agent, and the agent talks. And that's what happens with a lot of these kids. They'll all of a sudden be like, how does people know that? Well, because agents talk. And then, inevitably kids also, even before they were agents, had to have the eyeball emojis. And then all of a sudden, everybody that covers that kid's recruitment goes, all right, what's Bobby doing? Well, he's not coming here. Well, he's not coming here. Well, he's not coming here. Okay, process of elimination. Going there. And then 13 predictions later, the kid's moment is out there before he ever gets to announce it. So, the rare kid that does not talk, that, doesn't have anybody leak things out is a unicorn these days. It happens, but it's very few and far between.
And you also have to shift through what's real and what's not with agents going to
yes, they put out fake stuff trying to drive up the price on a said school, right? Like, oh yeah, Clemson's coming hard. And
there was one, I'm not going to say his name, but there was one player that, Tennessee was linked to in this cycle, and I reached out to him and, hey, Eric Kane, just want to know if Tennessee's recruiting you, what's that look like? And he said, hey, man, thanks for reaching out. I'd love to play for Tennessee. They haven't talked to me, though. I'm like, all right, well,
sorry,
that's where
buddy.
we are in 2025. The most interesting, I don't know. I mean, the best recruitment I've ever covered was a portal one a couple of cycles ago, and it was Luke Holman. And I mean, I got in with the dad, and I talked to him every single day, and it was great. And I got great information. It was awesome. It was one of those recruitments where you have everything ready to go. I mean, I had the commitment story. I had a feature with Drew Beam because they were teammates for Team USA that summer. I had this source. I mean, I had like 4 pieces of content ready to roll. Then he picks LSU. So that's one of those where you can do everything right, and ultimately you have nothing to show for it. But that's recruiting. That's our job sometimes.
The recruitment's where you get a play-by-play as it's happening. That's not always the case, but there was a Florida transfer. Maybe he ended up at Florida. I can't remember where he was coming from. I guess it's like a grad transfer situation. This was 3 or 4 years ago where I was getting the play-by-play. That was nice. You need more of those recruitments.
Oh, yeah,
didn't end up at Tennessee, but still got the play-by-play as the decision was happening.
Yeah. You have like, reporters from other outlets or other parts of the region saying, oh, that's not true. It's like, well, it's 1,000% true, buddy. Those are the best ones. Those are the absolute best ones. All right, RWDYvawl, AP, is going to list a number of prospects here, and he says, feather to your feet over 5.5 commits to Tennessee. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Craig Tutts, Kamari Blair, Zay Anderson, Brody Smith, Javonte Smith, Iverson Garcia, and Theodore.
Well, Iverson Garcia is already committed to South Florida. Jamin Theodore, feel like Tennessee's trending there. Zay Anderson, same thing. Kamari Blair left here. And again, he's taking this like 10-day vacation. So a lot can change in 10 days. Talk about his family. But he left town. I felt like Tennessee was in a good spot there. There's 3. Who are the other ones?
Blair, Anderson, Smith, Brody Smith, Javonte Smith.
Yeah, sounds like he's going to take more visits once the season starts. So that one's going to be delayed. So I don't know there. Craig Tutt, that to me is still totally a toss-up. And then who was the other one? How many names are there?
7.
Okay, who am I missing here?
You talked Theodore. Garcia committed elsewhere, so.
Yeah, as of right now, I would go under only because I don't know what Craig Tutt's going to do. I think that's a coin toss. And Brody Smith's going to take visits in September. So if Brody Smith was done, probably have a little better, clearer view because it doesn't sound like he is, and he's going to take more visits in September, then I'm not willing to make any kind of projection on that one. So right now, I would go under that 5.5 number only because of that.
Athron's got a couple here. Are the baseball transfers more related to the paring down of the scholarship numbers? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Tennessee's got 22 at the time of this recording that were on the team last year, 17 pitchers. I mean, you had a roster, 40-man active roster, 37 for SEC games, but like 52 players on your team. I mean, you gotta bring that down because you can't have 34 and some walk-ons. We're trying to get clarity on the grandfathered in approach and all that. Again, I don't think anybody knows that right now, but that number's not going to be 10 or 15. It would be like 3 or 4 max. But it's a 34 hard out, right? And so that's the issue right there for sure. Does the commitment of USF for the Powell defensive tackle just mean Rodney will go after him harder now?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, ultimately, Iverson Garcia's got to be willing to listen to Rodney. I mean, he's going to continue to recruit him. I think in a perfect world that, get him back over here, in the season for a game. But until he shows back up for a game this fall, to me, that's just a pipe dream. And so is any kid. Like when you commit elsewhere, if you don't show back up for a game or anything like that, it's hard for me to say Tennessee's got a realistic shot to flip you. Yes, he's been to campus. Yes, he lives just down the street and all that. But there's got to be some like really intense, hardcore dialogue where he shows enough interest to come for a visit. And then I think it becomes a little bit more real.
Are Javonte Smith and Zayden Anderson players we would not have gone after in years past and are benefiting now from the new number at 105?
I would not say that. Zayden Anderson got an offer because he has really, really high-end speed, and Javonte Smith is just a football player. Kid plays 3 sports: baseball, basketball, football. And does it at a fairly high level. So yeah, I mean, I think do I think that they're instant impact guys and playing in year one? Probably not. But do I think that they are players that can certainly help you 2-3 years down the line? Look at Theo Jackson. I mean, Theo Jackson took to year 5. I don't think those kids will take to year 5. But my point is like, I don't think you can compare them to years past. I don't think you can talk about the 105. I mean, I understand what he's trying to insinuate, but that's not really why I think Tennessee would take those kids if they were still at 85.
Tennessee football is having a talent show. Which player has the best talent? Grant Ramey. I mean, Elijah Simmons was the answer to so many of these questions for the last 5 years. That's
the only answer I've got in my head, and it's ineligible. I don't know what the next talent is in this football program.
AP, you know better than us.
Yeah. I mean, outside of like some guys liking to cook and those type of things, I don't know of anybody that's playing the violin or anything like that.
Yeah. Last question here. 2 questions, but from Nashville 615. Settle this GQ debate. It's year 5 for Heupel, and the recruiting has not been great. It's been good, but not great. Is it crazy to hope for a top 5 recruiting class sprinkled in once every couple of years of high school players are the main focus?
No, I don't think that's crazy. I think it's probably crazy to think that they're going to be a top 5 class every year, but it's not crazy to think that they can be a top 5 class every so often. I think that's doable. So no, I don't think that's crazy at all, and it's certainly not unfair.
Last one. If Joey Aguilar has a great season, do you see any scenario where they target an experienced portal quarterback to bridge the gap between him and Faizon Brandon?
No. I mean, like, what do you have George? I mean, like you're missing the bank on George. Like, certainly in a perfect world, Aguilar wins this job, and then you have a 3-person battle next spring: Merklinger, George McIntyre, Faizon Brandon, and you go from there. If Merklinger wins this job and plays well, obviously it throws the quarterback trajectory in a totally different direction. But no, I don't think that they're going to go and get anybody to bridge the gap between Aguilar and Faizon Brandon, because that's what George is supposed to be, or Merklinger for that matter. I don't know. I guess I just don't. Do they think that those kids aren't any good? Do they think George isn't any good? Like, I guess I just don't understand. But I don't know.
Out the door, AP. It sounds like Faizon had a pretty good showing at the Elite 11.
He did. Faizon's a big kid, 6'5", really good arm, uber talented, and will be interesting to see kind of where he goes in the rankings again. He's a 5-star in my mind. He continues to showcase all the different tools and can throw it, as well as anybody.
Appreciate you guys for sending in your questions here for the Thursday morning mailbag podcast, Volquest.com and on the General's Quarters. Continuing to answer your questions throughout the week. A lot going on right now. Recruiting, Tennessee football. Is that run going to start soon? How long could that run be? The recruiting dominoes, we'll find out. We'll talk about it over the GQ. Tennessee baseball transfer portal. Camp starting up in a couple of weeks. No better place to be dialed into all the badness than over at Volquest.com. For Grant Ramey, Austin Price, I'm Eric Kane. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Thursday morning Volquest Mailbag Podcast.